Good afternoon, guys. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about habits that have changed my life. And I know a lot of these videos, they talk about certain habits that you learn to practice every day that changes your life. But what I'm going to be talking about is something different, and it's going to be habits that I already have that I had to change in order for me to grow as a person and just better myself overall. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about self-love overall and learning to love yourself. I definitely think that overall, when it comes to self-love, you just need to change certain habits. There are habits in your life that are so important that need to be changed in order for you to grow, in order for you to even start taking the baby steps to bettering yourself and learning to love yourself. So don't ever expect yourself to be able to have a quick fix for this or learn it overnight, because it's something that needs to be practiced all the time. It's habits that, we end up getting these habits for years and it sticks with us for years. So in order for us to even change them, it takes just as much time. So you need to understand that these are habits that I needed to change to better myself, and that it didn't happen overnight. It took time, it took a lot of work, and it also took many mistakes for me to be able to change these habits. So before we get into the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also hit the notification button if you want updates on my newest videos. And yeah, let's get into this video. So one habit that I needed to change in my life was to stop accepting the bare minimum from people. And a lot of people who know me know that when I go into anything, any type of relationship, it can even be a friendship, I go all in and I go above and beyond for the people who are in my life. And I think that people who are exactly like that need to change this habit about them if they are not getting what they're putting into it. And from changing this habit, it took a lot for me to have to put my foot down and say something and stand up for myself. I'm not the kind of person who normally does. I'll normally just sit back and not say anything. But I learned that at the end of the day, I wasn't making myself happy and I was sacrificing my happiness to make somebody else happy. And even though I cared about the person, or it could be anything, even if you care about the person that you're in a relationship with or have a relationship with, it will never overtake the feeling that you have at the end of the day when you know that you're not getting what you deserve. So that was one habit that I needed to change, was to quit accepting the bare minimum for people. So I put my foot down and I said exactly what my wants were, what my needs were. And I learned that it's okay if that person can't meet that. It's perfectly fine. I would rather somebody be upfront with me and say, I can't give that to you, instead of stringing me along to say, like, to make it seem that they are able to do these things for you, but in our reality, they can't. So I've learned that you should say what you want and what you need out of a relationship. And most times the people that you're having relationships with, they actually know what you need and what you want. A lot of them just aren't really ready to give it to you. So I've learned to stop accepting the bare minimum and to, what is wrong with saying what you want and what you need in any type of relationship? Even in friendships, it goes the same way. So this was one habit that needed to be changed, and one habit that definitely changed my self-worth, my self-love, and I was able to really grow by knowing that, hey, it's okay to put your foot down. You don't need to be scared. You're asking for exactly what you deserve, and there's nothing wrong with that. Another habit that I changed was that instead of focusing my energy on other things, other situations, other people. I learned to focus and put all of that energy into myself. I learned to invest in myself. And I would have never expected myself to grow as fast as I did within this past year. I would say it's, oh my gosh, it's like black and white from where I was before. And I grew so much from doing this, from putting all of my energy into myself instead of other things. I grew so much as a person in 1 year than I ever did in 10 years. So when you learn to focus just solely on yourself and you stop focusing on other people, other situations, you grow so much. You learn who you are as a person so much. You know, I never ever thought that I would learn more about who I am as a person, but you really do. You end up establishing so much more as a person when you invest in yourself. So I am so for people who end up, I mean, it's not even selfish. You know, if we're going to talk about being selfish, it's definitely not selfish to take time for yourself, invest in yourself instead of worrying about everybody else, because growth is so much more fast when you stop worrying about everybody else and just put all of that energy into yourself. The next habit that I needed to change was the need to have to control everything. I have always been somebody who thinks that I can control any situation in my life. And once something happens where it's out of my control, I feel like my entire life is falling apart. But this past year, I definitely realized that when you just let things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, it's okay. The world isn't gonna end. And you really spend a lot less energy and time in trying to control the situation when you just stop, not stop caring, but when you just let it happen, you let it be. It has made me more of a laid back person, where before I always felt the need to have to control every little thing. And now I just let things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. I'm not saying that I don't overthink. I still am an overthinker, but when it comes to feeling the need to have to control the situation, I don't. I definitely just let it happen the way it's supposed to play out. And I've learned from this that when you do let things play out the way that they're supposed to, it's meant to be. Any situation where you just let it play out the way it's supposed to instead of feeling the need to control it, it's always meant to be for you. It's the best thing for you. And I've also learned that when you control things, when you try to control things in your life, you end up setting yourself up for disappointment, because it doesn't matter if you try to control it right then and there and the situation stays controlled for a short period of time. After a while, whatever you try to control, it will come back again. It will manifest to the same thing, the same situation. So what I feel like we do when we try to control things is we end up just putting this huge pause button on something that is meant to happen in our life. So instead of putting this pause button, pressing the pause button and saying, okay, let me just put this on hold for right now, but it's gonna come up in another month or in a couple of weeks again, you know, you just need to let it happen, because when you let things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, or let things play out the way that they're supposed to play out, you save yourself so much more time. You save yourself heartbreak. You just make life so much more easier when you let things happen the way that they're supposed to instead of trying to control it. There's so much noise happening today. The next thing that I needed to change was that I needed to stop expecting people to fill my cup. And I also think that this goes hand in hand with involving myself with people who never made me feel like I was enough. But the real problem wasn't anybody else, it was really just me. And when I learned to work on myself and try and figure out where this was rooting from, where this was coming from, instead of expecting everybody else to fill my cup, I learned that I am so much more capable of doing it for myself. And when you're able to fill your own cup up, it lessens the need to have to feel like other people need to give that to you. And talking about this, I'm going to go into relationships because this is so important for relationships as well, where I feel like when we hop into a relationship, we are expecting somebody else to fill our cups. We are expecting somebody else to make us happy. And a good example to this is when you have your cup filled and you get involved with somebody who also has their cup filled, you are not expecting that person to have to give that to you. You already have it for yourself. You're whole as a person. The other person is whole as a person, and you're not expecting somebody else to make you happy. You're not expecting somebody else to give you that. That is so important because it isn't even their responsibility. We expect other people to make us happy and to fill our cups up, but it's not their responsibility to have to make us happy. We are responsible for making ourselves happy. And I learned this past year that I was expecting other people to give me something that I was responsible for. You know, I needed to step up and say, hey, stop expecting other people to give it to you. You're just going to disappoint yourself, and you can do it for yourself instead of thinking that everybody else can give it to you. So I quit expecting people to fill my cup up, and I learned to fill it up myself. So another habit that I needed to not change, but that I needed to learn was to learn my worth. I was always waiting on somebody to tell me what my worth was. You know, somebody to love me, somebody to acknowledge me, somebody to tell me, I'm so sorry if the dog is barking and you can hear it. I apologize for the dog. But anyways, I was always waiting for somebody to give that to me. And it took a lot of crying, a lot of pain, a lot of heartbreak for me to learn eventually that I know the kind of person I am. You know, I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. And what I bring to the table must be pretty good for people to want to be in my life, for people to come back into my life. So I learned my worth, and I learned that when you know your worth, people will learn to know that you're not going to put up with crap. You know, they'll know. I'm not saying that they're not going to step over your boundaries, step over, like, be honest with you all the time. I don't think that it's going to change their characteristics, but it definitely lessens the load of them knowing that they can't mess with you. So when I was able to establish my worth and, you know, stand up for myself and know that I'm pretty damn good as a person and I really don't need, this is something that I learned also in therapy, if we're going to talk about worth, is that when we talk about other people in our lives, we don't need them in our lives. In all reality, we don't need people in our lives, but we want them in our lives. And there's a huge difference. And I think that when I learned my self-worth, I also remembered that. Now, the next habit that I needed to change was to stop being available for people all the time. I'm the kind of person where if you text me, you call me, you will literally hear back from me very quickly. I normally always answer my phone unless I'm doing something, I'm busy with something, and I think a lot of people know that I'm very accessible. And when you're accessible to everybody, they expect you to always be there. And when it becomes like that, it's kind of like you're worrying so much about always being there for somebody, always having to be by your phone, or always needing to respond back. It becomes what you feel, or what I felt. What I feel at times is a responsibility, like a need to have to respond right back, a need to have to answer that call, especially if I'm in the middle of something that's important to me, or I'm in the middle of homework, or, you know, I'll drop whatever it is to be there for people. But I've learned that when you do this all the time, people will always expect that from you. And on top of that, especially if you're dropping everything to be there for somebody else, you're not putting yourself first. So I've learned that sometimes if I'm in the middle of something, or if I have something that needs to be done that's important to me and somebody calls or texts me, I don't respond back automatically, because whatever I'm doing is important and it's important to me. And you don't always have to be accessible to people 24/7. You don't have to feel like it's your responsibility also to have to be there for people 24/7. So it's a habit that I needed to change, that definitely improved and took time, but I think I'm getting better as time goes on. So these are the habits that I wanted to share that changed my life. Leave comments below and let me know if there are habits in your life that you needed to change in order for you to grow as a person, and also even love yourself as a person. But before you guys go, please don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Also subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button if you want updates on my newest videos. And I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.